Huh? What? A mouse? Why is he suddenly bringing me a mouse? Grab. This kid doesn't eat this sort of thing. He brought it for me to eat. Was it a present? Steak. Delicious. See that? Why is he acting like this? Oh my goodness. Sir Luke, lock this guy up. Pardon? I'm telling you to lock up this bird. Oh, greetings there, warriors. It's me, Pruitii. Yes, I was reading some manhwa. I personally happen to claim that reading romance manhwa that can be a little cringy happens to be a guilty pleasure of mine. Though I wonder, do you guys have a guilty pleasure? Before we dive into this whole topic, let me know down below. I am very curious to see what your guilty pleasure is. Guilty pleasures are just fun things to enjoy, right? But why is it titled guilty pleasure? Why do we feel guilt over something that we happen to enjoy? To be honest, I felt a little guilty, reading those manhwa in front of you guys. I don't misunderstand me. I was just enjoying it. It's fun. It's stupid. But why am I defending myself like this? Is it just bad? Is it cringe? Is it harmful to like reading manhwa like that? Why is liking something that makes us happy guilty? Why does it bring guilt? Well, that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about guilty pleasures and why we feel guilt over something we should enjoy. Now, grab some popcorn, get some water or whatever snack you enjoy, and let's dive into what makes guilty pleasures guilty. To first understand that, we need to talk about what makes a guilty pleasure. What is the actual definition of a guilty pleasure? Well, Sammy Shalk, an associate professor in the Department of Gender and Women's Studies at Madison, says a guilty pleasure is something we enjoy, but we know we're not either supposed to like it or liking it says something negative about us. Guilty pleasures can also be activities with short-term payoffs like happiness that can have a perceived long-term negative consequence, tying in with saying something negative about us, saying something that we're not supposed to like, those negative connotations. On top of that, there are two categories of guilty pleasures. Things that go into the body, such as food and drink that you enjoy that make you feel bad because they're unhealthy. For example, this could be, chocolate cake. We're going to talk a lot about chocolate cake. Soda, candy, chips, anything like that. These can also be considered comfort foods. For example, my comfort food is Taco Bell. I know. I can hear some people cringing over the fact that I like Taco Bell. It's my comfort food. Another category of guilty pleasures is things that go into the mind, things that we enjoy on social media or that is entertainment. So TV shows, books, manhwa, all of those things are the two categories of guilty pleasures. Did you know, though, that the term guilty pleasure is actually relatively new in the grand scheme of humanity, of course. I'm not talking new enough to be like yeet or that kind of slang terms. Guilty pleasures didn't really show up in print until the 1990s. According to the Online Times archives in about 2013, the term guilty pleasure shows up approximately 1,260 times, with 1,247 of those appearing since 1996. Meaning before then, the term guilty pleasure wasn't really a thing. It's definitely a modern invention, a modern term. So we have the framework of understanding what a guilty pleasure is. Something that makes us happy that is perceived negatively. Did you know there's also a fun correlation between happiness and guilt? There was a research study conducted where people would watch videos, browse online dating profiles, and eat candy. They would either be prompted with, you need to feel guilt, or prompted with, you need to feel disgust or anger. Those participants that felt guilt or were primed with guilt experienced greater enjoyment than the other participants. And whereas the participants that were primed with disgust or anger had lesser enjoyment of those activities. The fact that guilt can amplify your happiness is a correlation that exists. But does that mean we should let guilt dictate our happiness? There's an important distinction, though, to be making about guilty pleasures, that the term itself isn't really correct. Philosophers Chris Goffin and Florian Kova note that the term of guilty pleasure tends to be more associated with the feelings of shame or embarrassment rather than guilt. itself. Now, what's the difference between, say, guilt and shame? Simple. Shame is a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of doing something wrong or foolish, whereas guilt is the fact of having committed a breach of conduct, especially violating the law or, incurring a penalty, lots of feelings of blame for potentially imaginary offenses or a sense of inadequacy. So the two, being similar because a lot of emotions tend to overlap, there's a clear distinction. Guilt is the feeling of having broken the law, broken something, whereas shame is the feeling of humiliation, of doing something wrong. So why are they called guilty pleasures instead of, say, shameful pleasures? Because in actuality, you are, quote unquote, breaking something. And that thing you're breaking is societal norms. Don't we all fucking love society? Joker, insert here. Society. Society is just what we experience, what we live in. However, society can have a lot of negative effects on people. Our guilty pleasures are things that societally are viewed as bad, whether it being something that we think others would disapprove of, thus lowering our social status, or things that society views as not educational, informative, or purposeful. Society dictates what our guilty pleasures are. Our guilty pleasures are restricted by everything that is going around us. It could be restricted by gender norms, hustle culture, that need of just drive, that go of being healthy, doing everything all of the time, turning your hobbies into jobs, turning everything you do into something that gives you output. Constant consuming of things to get something better in life. Those social norms can be tied as well to things that are shameful to go against. For example, like if you eat unhealthy, you're going against the healthy culture of eating. You're supposed to be eating a protein shake instead of enjoying a bowl of cereal. Oh my God. Those feelings can amplify that guilt feeling instead of, enjoying it. All of the norms that we perceive inside of society, whether if it's something that we're imposing on ourselves, whether it's society telling us that it's not acceptable to like something, those things might exist, but they also could be misunderstandings. They could be something called pluralistic ignorance. And that is when people endorse something publicly but hold a different personal opinion because they assume, well, rather incorrectly, that everybody else's public attitudes reflect their private beliefs. That's not really the case. It's not the case that what we perceive in society is what people really truly believe and uphold in them personal selves. So the societal norms that we understand of, well, liking this thing is bad, could be completely a misunderstanding between us and what we put out into society. For example, let's talk about television. So you might see somebody who's enjoying the NBA, watching, maybe they're even on the front lines of the court. They tend to be a lot of celebrities, a lot of executives, a lot of people that are high in power in our society, thus elevating the concept of watching sports and basketball and all of that jazz up higher in the societal norm ladder. Whereas, say, let's talk about The Bachelor. It's perceived as shameful. Who is the type of people that enjoy watching The Bachelor? Well, if you watch any of the live recap things at the end, it's mostly women that are probably average, middle class, maybe even lower class, yet they love it. And yet we view watching The Bachelor as something to be guilty over because it's bad media, thus bringing it down lower on the societal norm ladder. Isn't that interesting? Such a big difference, but yet the level of enjoyment is the same. The people who enjoy The Bachelor will hoot and holler and cry and get invested in the show. People who watch the NBA hoot and holler and cry and shout because they're emotionally invested in basketball. The pleasure is the same, but the level of social norm to like it is different. These things are decided not by us personally, because personally, I don't care if you watch The Bachelor. I don't care if you watch basketball. If that makes you happy, good for you. But the society at large says if you like things like The Bachelor or cringy TV shows, that's not okay. That's not a good use of your time. But if watching basketball's a good use of your time. That is decided by society at large. That is decided by advertisers, by large corporations, by the bigger collective, rather than the personal. And that's what makes these societal norms so dangerous. That's what makes these guilty pleasures feel guilty. Another way that our guilty pleasures can induce these feelings of guilt, of breaking the law or doing a social faux pas, is tying into the what the hell effect. Now you might be wondering, what is that? I've never heard of that. Well, it's a psychological phenomenon that is the explanation for if you fail once, you might as well give in completely. Let's talk more about chocolate cake, shall we? Imagine yourself to be identified as a healthy person. You go on jogs, you eat salads every day, you are very health conscious, you love investing yourself into the healthy lifestyle that has been appropriated by society. And that's what makes you happy. But you know what also makes you happy? It's comfort food. It's that chocolate cake. Ugh. Who doesn't love a good slice of chocolate cake? But no, you're that healthy person. You can't have that chocolate cake. The what the hell effect states that if you take a slice of chocolate cake and you are perceived in that mind space, you feel that you broke your healthy lifestyle. You broke your diet. You're a failure. So why not keep going? Why not at least enjoy the pleasure with that guilt? That is a common attribute to what makes our guilt strong, is we've already broke something. So why not keep breaking it again? The fun thing about the what the hell effect is that when you associate what gives you pleasure with guilt, there's a higher tendency that you have poor self-control. Think about it. When you feel that you broke your diet, you don't have any more control over yourself. You spiral, you break your diet, you continue eating and eating and eating the things that you find comfort in because that makes you happy. There was a study conducted at the University of Canterbury in New Zealand that looked at eating habits. The people that associated guilt with chocolate cake had a lower belief in their own self-control compared to the people that associated it with more positive feelings like celebration. They continued the study over the next 3 months, seeing that the what the hell effect continued into a self-fulfilling prophecy, where those who associated guilt with eating chocolate cake became less successful at their own diets, less successful losing weight compared to the group that associated eating chocolate cake with positive feelings of celebration. Eating a chocolate cake does not ruin a diet. Diving into eating chocolate cake only forever does. And the what the hell effect amplifies that. There's no shame. There's no problem of eating a cake once in a while. Say maybe you had a bad day. I want a piece of cake. You have that cake, you celebrate it. You will naturally feel less inclined to go back and eat more cake because you let yourself be happy. You didn't feel the guilt of breaking your diet. You let yourself enjoy the happiness of eating a chocolate cake. The important thing of that is fighting those feelings of guilt, whether it be from society, whether it be from our own personal implications, the what the hell effect, all of those factors. We need to allow ourselves to enjoy the things that make us happy regardless of what those factors stay. Because did you know that if you are happy, you will be more productive in your day? That happiness, that self-compassion of letting yourself be happy is more important than those feelings of guilt of letting society down or letting yourself down, because you are letting yourself be happy. When we associate happiness with excitement and celebration, we are actually practicing a very, very good and healthy technique in controlling ourselves. Whenever we have to use our self-control to resist a temptation or continuing, eating chocolate cake, you're strengthening the muscle in your head of stopping yourself, being able to stop. Because when you associate happiness with the pleasurable task, you don't have to worry about the what the hell effect. You don't have to worry about letting yourself down. You can say, yes, that made me happy for a time. Now let's stop and do what I need to do instead of diving into the guilt. It allows yourself to have compassion and understanding of your mind, of who you are, instead of feeling that guilt. Guilty pleasures are just pleasures that we enjoy in life. And we should allow ourselves to enjoy these pleasures without feeling the guilt associated with them, because that can really change your life. I'm not kidding. Allowing yourself to enjoy your guilty pleasures without the feelings of guilt can greatly improve your life. I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but self-compassion, letting yourself enjoy something is very beneficial to your mind. Self-compassion is often tied to optimism, to happiness, personal initiative, being open to new things, and overall well-being. Self-compassion, it's a healthy attitude towards oneself during times of struggle, during times when you're depressed, during times when you're sad or stressed, because we all feel those things. In fact, approximately 280 million people have depression. That's a lot of people. And that's not counting the people who are undiagnosed, who don't have major depressive disorder. It doesn't count all of that. Take a look at yourself in the mirror. Ask yourself, how am I feeling today? Have I been nice to myself? Think about some of your friends, a loved one that has been going through hard times. How do you feel towards them? Do you feel that way towards yourself? We allow ourselves to be compassionate towards others when they're having a hard time, but we can never allow ourselves to be compassionate towards ourselves. Because, well, myriad of reasons, things of guilt, feeling that we don't deserve it. However, being self-compassionate, allowing yourself to say, like your guilty pleasures, without feeling that guilt is extremely beneficial. Letting yourself feel happiness can reduce self-coldness, which can tend to amplify feelings of depression and loneliness. In this crazy society that we live in, this crazy world, depression and loneliness cases are up on the rise. So we should let ourselves be compassionate towards ourselves. We don't need to be judgmental. We don't need to hold ourselves to societal standards. We don't need to say, oh, I'm not eating healthy, I'm a failure. We need to hold compassion and say, oh, it's okay. I can be happy the way I choose to live. Empathy towards yourself is key in life, meaning that the things that we factor as guilty pleasures are really just pleasures that we should take pride in. Allowing ourselves to feel happy without feeling that guilt because we deserve it. Doing things that make you happy is a part of self-compassion, part of self-care, which improves our mental health, which can improve our lives. That feeling of guilt tied to a pleasure is not something we should experience anymore. It's not something that we should allow ourselves to feel. It's not something that society should let us feel that way anymore. For example, look at this graph. Look at this graph. These are things people were claiming to be their guilty pleasures from quarantine. Why should we feel guilt over making more time to play video games? Wearing comfy clothes all day. Societal laws are telling us, oh, you can't be comfy when you're working at home. Oh, you can't spend time doing video games. You need to spend time making money or starting a business or whatever. These things make us happy. They're not hurting others. There is no need for them to be guilty pleasures anymore. They are things that make us happy, and we should embrace that. Guilty pleasures are just pleasures that make us happy. They are things that we should be self-compassionate towards ourselves, fully embrace it, enjoy it. Society dictates that we must always hustle. We always must be doing something productive. But is that the way to live out a healthy life? Is that really something that will bring us happiness? I say no. Our guilty pleasures bring us happiness. Anything that makes us happy brings us happiness. We deserve time to enjoy being alive, to enjoy being happy. So what if I read cringy manhwa on the occasion? I do that. It makes me happy. It gives me enrichment. It gives me pleasure. I laugh at it. I think this is ridiculous. I love this. I deserve to feel that happiness when I read my manhwa. You deserve your happiness when you eat cake. You deserve happiness when you make time to play video games. You deserve happiness whenever you do anything that is viewed as a quote-unquote guilty pleasure. There's no harm in enjoying it. So enjoy it. Stand atop this mountain with me and shout. My guilty pleasure is reading cringy as fuck romance manhwa that repeat the same 20 tropes over and over again. I love reading them because they're easy to digest and they give my brain time to relax and do something kind for myself that makes me happy. And I love that. So, take a look at your guilty pleasure. What makes you happy about your guilty pleasure? Is it something that can give you time away from the crazy stressors of life? Is it something that you can enjoy, just eat and devour? Guilty pleasures are just pleasures. So enjoy them. Take pride in it. Let me know down below what your guilty pleasure is. Scream it from the rooftops if you have to, because you deserve happiness in this life just as much as anyone you love deserves happiness. Guilty pleasures are like so last century. So pre-pandemic, you know? Thank you guys so much for watching and subscribing. Keep fighting your battles. And I'll see you the next time I have a video to make. Toodaloo!